Good evening, everyone. It is August 8th, 2022, and I'll hereby call this meeting to order for the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. We have a quorum present pursuant to 620-210, so we will proceed with conducting the business of the City of Mount Juliet. At this point, I'll set the agenda. Would like to move the appointments to the Hill of agenda. If there's no objection, we will set that with the appointments at the Hill. If there's no objections, we will set it otherwise as published. So without objection, it'll be set. We have a short packet tonight, 48 pages, a couple of items on unfinished business, and then 5 more items under new business. If you'd like to follow along, the packets are in the wire mesh baskets by the door back there. And of course, if you're online, you're welcome to follow along with us online as well. So our next item is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'd like to ask our PIO officer, Mr. Justin Beasley, if he would to lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Police chief not here, fire chief not here, so I'm the backup quarterback. If y'all don't mind standing with me as I pray as well, if you don't mind. Lord, we come to you with thanksgiving. We thank you for our mayor. We thank you for our elected body, our board of commissioners, our city manager, our deputy city manager, Lord. We thank you for their leadership that they have provided for so long for the city, Lord. You have blessed this city immeasurably. Lord, you have had your hand on this city, and that goes from the department heads to just any and everybody that calls the city their workplace, Lord. We're thankful for that. We just ask that you give us your wisdom and give us your insight with the decisions that are upcoming for us, Lord. We trust on your guidance and we depend on it, Lord. Just again, we thank you for our health. We thank you for being here tonight. We thank you for being able to call the city of Mount Juliet home for so many people. We're so fortunate. Please forgive us where we were ungrateful. We got a lot of things to be proud of for with this city, and a lot of that goes to you and the people that make up this city. So we're thankful for that, and we just ask you to be with us this week, and then in this meeting, may we be lights and stewards and shepherds for you and your word. It's in your holy and precious name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, sometimes when the backup to the backup gets in there, you know, the fans start screaming for the backup. So here we go. Justin, thank you for doing that. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. This is the minutes from our regular meeting on July 25th. Do I hear a motion? Motion and a second. The item is on the table. Any questions, comments, or discussion? All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Our next item will be citizen comments. We reserve the right to terminate comments. If your remarks become abusive to other citizens, employees, or fellow board members, the board is under no obligation to respond to questions from the floor. But if you will come forward, we would be happy to have you speak. You will be recognized for 3 minutes pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 220 of the City Code. We just ask you to come forward to state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Brian Christensen. You said address 112 Augusta Drive here in Mount Juliet.
All right.
Evening. I also serve on the city's alcoholic beverage board, and I'm before you here today to just in support of the resolution that's on the agenda this evening for some of the funds for fines for non-compliance with beer sales to be directed to Drug-Free Wilco. I have been serving on underage drinking task force with Drug-Free Wilco since earlier in the year, and just want to take this opportunity to introduce the director of Drug-Free so she can tell you a little bit about it, Tammy Crow.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Grow. I'm 2014 Brunswick Drive in Lebanon, Tennessee, and I am with Drug-Free Wilco. I've been the executive director since January 2021. We began as a nonprofit in 2018. Lisa Bastapoli, she approached Mayor Hutto because her son had died of a tragic overdose. As you know, what happens to many of us, what starts out as a pain injury and prescribed medication sometimes turns into tragic death. And that was what happened with street pills laced with fentanyl. So we started a coalition in 2018, became a nonprofit in 2020, and I transitioned from the board chair to executive director, like I said, in January 2021. We received DFC funding, that's federal dollars, to really address priorities in Wilson County. We survey citizens, our youth. We have a youth survey in all of our schools to find out what our local conditions are, what we need to address. And what we found out is our youth say, we know where to get it. Ease of access is one of the issues with alcohol. And so we're trying to address policy. And that's where we started the Underage Drinking Task Force. We've been working for 6 months. I feel we have really moved along as far as trying to get both the Mount Juliet and the Lebanon Beer Board kind of on the same, using the same system and matrix of fines, so people know, if they break the law, this is what's going to happen in Wilson County. No doubts about it. And we follow up with that. A little bit about what we do as well to address this. It's not just that. I've put some information. I gave you that with our Dope Sick event coming up. We have partnered with Wilson County Schools to help them revise the code of conduct. You may have seen the article in the Tennessean, and that's to address vaping and drug offenses and really push education. It's the same with alcohol. We're not here to slap, somebody's wrist. We're here to increase compliance of underage drinking laws. How do we do that? We provide education and resources to our retailers so they're more successful, especially our mom and pops. How do we get out there and provide them education? And we want to continue doing so. We also address vaping in schools, vaping, drug misuse, and underage drinking. So we're doing that through policy. Any questions for me? Thank you for having me this evening.
Well, thank you for everything you do and for being here tonight. Mr. Christian was a little modest with talking about the resolution. This was actually, he's the brainchild behind this resolution, so he deserves the credit. Just happy to help it along. Is there anyone else in attendance for citizen comments? All right, seeing none, we will move on to commissioner comments and reports. We'll start with Commissioner Hefner. Sir, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't need my glasses. I don't need to read. Short and sweet. First of all, I want to welcome my beautiful wife, Cherie, to the meeting tonight. We're celebrating our 14th year wedding anniversary this evening. So right after this meeting, we're going to dinner. So I want to say I love you, babe. Happy anniversary. Looking forward to the next 14 years and then some. So thank you. That ends my report.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll recognize Commissioner Mullally.
Well, happy anniversary. I don't really have a report. July newsletter went out last Monday, so you can download it on my website, jennifermullally.com. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we'll recognize Vice Mayor Justice.
Thank you. Two things real quick. The first one being congratulations to Scott Hefner, Commissioner Scott Hefner. I'm not going to say congratulations to you. Just bless your hearts, all I'm going to say. No, actually, congratulations, you guys, and happy anniversary. And as I said on Facebook, I've been on Facebook quite a bit today. You really outkicked your coverage there, buddy. So, moving on, I would like to say that I received numerous, probably more than I've received in a couple of years, messages and telephone calls, text messages, phone calls, you name it, I got them. Emails regarding some damage to the Cedar Creek Bridge near the ballpark. Received the phone calls since when the incredibly unhip Mount Juliet blew up regarding the damage. Somebody took a picture and created a full-blown panic. And so I was forced to contact on Sunday afternoon our public works director, Andy Barlow, who advised me at that time we were aware of the situation and that the week before, actually, he had been in contact with TDOT. TDOT had obviously, based on their response, been out, looked at the problem and described it as being cosmetic in nature only. So want to let you know that it is cosmetic in nature only. Now, I will also tell you that we're going to have a Facebook structural engineering class when they start actually doing the repair work on Lebanon Road. And want to invite all you structural engineers that are on Facebook telling us how bad that problem is to come out and get your continuing education in that area. So hopefully the bridge will be fixed and won't collapse anytime in the near future. So that's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll recognize Commissioner Bill Trevette.
I don't know how I'm going to top that one right there. So thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Mount Juliet Police for capturing the bull that got loose the other day. So that was kind of cool. Just want to make sure that those officers are doing well. But I would also like to, I know. Anyways, but no, I mean, hey, you know what? It made Facebook for you, Vice Mayor. Anyways, no. Happy anniversary to you and the missus out there in the audience. I'm not trying to top you guys or nothing, but our anniversary is actually next week. So we're celebrating our 25th anniversary. So looking forward to that, spending the same quality time with the missus as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy your dinner. Let's see here. The only other thing that I have, Mayor, which is, let's see here, just the movie nights. Would like to remind everybody, this past Friday, the parks have done such a great job this summer with movie nights. The next one coming up is September 2nd. And just as a reminder, just have the kids, get out there, enjoy that time with their family and friends. And it's been a good turnout. So that concludes my report, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'll just add that, well, I guess I'll say congratulations to you both on the anniversaries. But I'd also like to say congratulations to everyone that participated in the recent election. Congratulations to the winners. And I know everybody, some of you may have come up a little shorter than you expected, but it's a lot of work and a lot of stress on the family. So appreciate you getting out there and your willingness to serve. But that is wrapped up the August elections, the primary for state and federal. Of course, that concluded our county general. Have another election coming up in November. So everybody just to be mindful of that. And with that, I'll just turn it over to our city manager, recognize him for 10 minutes for his report.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners, those in attendance and those watching at home tonight. Congratulations to Mr. and Ms. Hefner. This proves the true sacrifice that elected officials and their families make on behalf of the citizens of Mount Juliet is that you'd be here on a commission night and then you're going to go to dinner afterwards. So thank you for your sacrifice on our behalf to all the elected body. We really appreciate that. And I think it pays dividends in our community for which you can see. Thing I always start off with first is just talking about shopping local. Please continue to do that, in particular the mom and pop shops in our community. They're the ones that put so much on the line of personal, finances, life savings, you name it, to open a business in our community. And they're the ones that's always here no matter what happens. They were here in the early days in 1972 and even before that, before the city's incorporation. So please continue to shop them before you shop outside of Mount Juliet in Wilson County. And also the vice mayor made me aware of a issue we were having with our phones up front. Apologize for that for anybody that might have called and whatever reason went into no man's land, I guess you'd say, with their call. I'll get with our IT director tomorrow. We'll figure it out. Those are supposed to roll over. And if for whatever reason they're not doing that, we wouldn't even be aware of it. It would just go to an answering system somewhere. So I'll get that figured out and apologize to anybody that was inconvenienced for that, but we'll get it taken care of. So thank y'all for making me aware of it, and God bless our great city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I think, Vice Mayor, I'm going to pledge to go out of my way to drive across that bridge on the way home.
I've driven over it 4 times today just to see if it was going to fall. And
Yes, sir.
I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. The young man back there on the back with that lime green shirt, that's Marty Potts. He's head of your City Beautiful and participates in the codes department. He's the one that actually noticed it first a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, notified Mr. Barlow immediately. Mr. Barlow immediately reached out to TDOT to make them aware of the issues. And so keen eye of some of our dedicated city employees is what caught that originally and made Mr. Barlow aware. So thank you both.
he didn't post it on Facebook, did he?
No, sir.
Okay, just check.
All right. With
Thank
that,
you, Marty.
we'll transition into the business portion of our agenda here. I'll read the first item, 9A, an ordinance to rezone the property known as the Chris Campbell property located at the southern corner of Hillview Drive and North Mount Juliet Road, map 72A, Group A, Parcel 30, from single-family residential RS40 to commercial town center CTC. Have a motion and a second. Item is on the table for discussion. Vice Mayor Justice.
Mayor, we had a little bit of a problem with the property. We have, and our planning director, Jennifer Hamblin, reminded me of this, but we have asked for, on rezones, to get as much information as we could possibly get as to what's going on into a piece of property. So far, I've heard at least two different scenarios, and one of them is, I don't think would be a very good fit. So I would like to get more information as to what their intentions are, true intentions are. One was a dentist office and the other one was a coffee shop. Those are diametrically on two ends of the spectrum as far as traffic goes.
Yes, they are.
And there's not going to be a curb cut, I'm pretty comfortable saying. I look to Director Barlow but I don't think there's going to be a curb cut on Lebanon Road for that. I mean, I'm sorry, on Mount Juliet Road for it. The curb cut would be onto Hillview, and the lot is challenged at best. So what I would like to do is get more information from the property owners as to what their intentions are. I mean, if it's going to be a dentist office, then maybe we change it to OPS, which would be a whole lot more fitting, I think, for that piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
But just a broad, open commercial neighborhood services type zoning, I'm not comfortable with it. So what I would like to do, if we could, is just to go ahead and move this one down the road and let them come back to us with something a little more specific so that we can actually get a good, true feeling as to what we need to rezone it for. So I guess I'd be asking for a motion to defer.
Okay, you got a motion to defer? Is there a second on the deferral? Okay, so we're on deferral now.
Give them time. I would say 2 meetings. I think would be sufficient. Now, I would like, now, I mean, if they have some bearing on as far as the deferral process, as far as would the time frame hurt their situation, then I'd like to hear that. Obviously, that's what we'd have to base our vote on.
Okay. All right. Anything else on advisement of deferral? Do we want to set could we agree to set deferral aside for just a moment and hear from?
And include her in the discussion. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. So let's hear from this young lady. Get your name and address and who you're with.
Yes, my name's Rhea Kirby. I am a citizen of McMinnville. My address is 102 Sunset Court, McMinnville, Tennessee. I represent Chris James Campbell, who's the owner of this property. I'm his real estate agent. We're under contract with this land lot, and the plans are for it to be a dentist office. And the entrance, we were told, could not be from the state highway. So the plans are for it to be from the Hillview street, but we're happy to do whatever the city needs us to do. But those are the plans, and they have been from the start.
Okay. So the plans are dentist office.
Yes. And I'm happy I've sent all the information that I do have. And I'm happy to send you guys more or keep you in the loop as we go. But those are the only plans we have. It is going to be a dentist office if we are able to rezone it and do so.
Are you looking just for CTC zoning or just a zoning to support a dentist office?
Can you explain the difference in the two? Tyler Gutierrez explained to me the CTC is what was needed.
Okay.
But it's your city, so whatever you guys would need, obviously.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
So
Why don't we bring Jennifer up and get Miss Hamlin, our planning director. I think we've got some. Pull it.
Hi.
Yes,
Um,
I think the question is a dentist office, CTC zoning only.
CTC will allow that or office professional services.
So
The
OPS would
would
support that.
support a dentist office. Yes, sir.
Is that what we're going for?
I mean, if they go under contract, I don't want to mess their contract up. So if we could, I would rescind if that's the case, and ask for an OPS, an amendment
Okay.
to.
So you're asking to rescind the deferral, and Commissioner Hefner, you seconded. Is there any objection to rescinding? All right, so we're back on the ordinance.
So I would make a motion to amend if I could, please.
Okay,
I would like to make a motion to amend the ordinance and change commercial town center or CTC anywhere where it's referenced to OPS or Office of Professional Services.
that's your motion. Was there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second on that. So on the table, we have an amendment to change it from CTC Commercial Town Center to OPS Office Professional Services. We've heard from our planning director that'll support the dentist's office that you're seeking.
Thank you very much. And I'm happy to send whatever information I need to as we move along. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this amendment? All right, all in favor of changing the ordinance, amending the ordinance from Commercial Town Center CTC and replacing that with OPS Office Professional Services, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to that? Okay, we're on the ordinances once amended. Any other comments? Commissioner Hefner?
I've looked at this lot and I don't have the dimensions of the site plan. I haven't seen it, but I don't know how you're going to fit anything on that lot other than a small 500 square foot building, if that. I mean, do we have any site plans or any building plans? There's a big storm drain that's in the front of that property. The elevation is all over the place. You've got a house that's right literally within 20 feet of the property line. I would like to see more than just the use of a dental. I'd like to see what a site plan looks like with parking. I know it meets our lot size requirements, which I'm scratching my head over that, but I would like to see a site plan.
We did discuss that the lot was small, but they did believe that they had all the room that they needed. But I can certainly get the plans and have them sent to you guys. Absolutely.
And keep in mind, this is just a straight rezone, so
I know. Let's come back for a second.
this is, I believe this is second.
This is second. Well, I may ask for a deferral anyways.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right.
It's gonna come back.
Hold on a minute. Let's get you on the,
Sorry.
Commissioner Tourette.
Yeah. So no, I would definitely support deferring this just so we can be able to review those documents before, because the fact that we also do have another property right there that is residential. That's my concern, as well as how we're going to be able to protect them from any other issues when it comes to commercial to residential. So
I think it's important to keep in mind once we rezone this, whether you review it or not, we're just doing a straight rezone. It's not a PUD.
yeah.
Vice Mayor.
So, and what you're saying is accurate. So I'm curious from legal. I mean, we're kind of restricted as to what we can and can't do here, because if it meets the land use plan and meets all the requirements, then for us to not do the rezone would put us into kind of a liability situation, would it not? Okay, just checking.
Let me turn the mic back on for that comment, sir.
It would.
Okay.
So regardless, I guess what I'm saying, regardless of what we come up with, and we can ask them to do this, but we can ask it really nicely and hope that they, take it to the planning commission, and the planning commission can control what they do and don't do on the lot. But we're going to be really restricted here as to whether or not it's basically yes or no, and no winds up being puts us in kind of a bad spot.
All right. Was there a motion on the floor and a second that I missed? Okay, so we're back on the ordinance as once amended. Is there any other questions, comments, or motions, actions? All right, all in favor of the ordinance as once amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries with a vote of 3-2. All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda is 11.1, an ordinance to rezone the property known as the Chrisman property located at 380 Nonneville Road, map 53, parcel 56, from single-family residential RS40 to office professional services. Have a motion and a second. The item's on the floor. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the item, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That carries. 11.2, an ordinance to amend Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the Zoning Regulations, Ordinance 2001-29, adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by modifying the Article Residential District Regulations, Section 51013, Public Notice Short-Term Rentals. Motion and a second. It's on the floor. Questions or comments? Commissioner. Okay. Commissioner Mullally.
So this is only in RM16. This has nothing to do with the residential. So this, since it doesn't stop short-term Airbnbs in residential, right? I mean, so that has nothing to do with residential.
They're only allowed in RM16 zoning classification. So your apartments currently.
Okay. So if currently in residential, if someone is renting out their home as an Airbnb, that's currently against
Correct.
city regulations. Okay.
This makes it more against regulations.
Makes it really fun for staff.
Our city attorney.
Basically, what this adds, it's adding a new section, 5-101.3. And the important aspects of it is section 3 and 4. 4 primarily because it's now requiring a permit. There is no requirement now for short-term rentals to have a permit. So if someone has an Airbnb being operating, I think I checked today and there's something like 62 or 63 advertised as Airbnb, and I didn't look to see how many were in RM16. But they would be illegal under this statute if they didn't have a permit. Of course, they could come and apply for a permit, and if they're not in RM16, then they're operating an illegal establishment. So we need the permit process to allow us to deal with those who aren't in compliance with the Airbnb statutes.
That makes sense. Of course, they could always ask for rezoned RM16.
That's exactly right. And they'll be subject to the hotel motel tax. They pay an application permit. I think it's $25 now for hotel motel. I think that tax is 4% and it all goes to recreation, et cetera. So anyway, this is just to clean up, to make it a bit clearer to people what they can and can't do, and what happens if they do what they should not be doing.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mullally, do you have anything else?
So what is the enforcement process for the ones existing
Suit
in
codes,
residential?
there's about 3 or 4 different ways to do it.
That's it.
Vice Mayor?
And thank you. That was one of my questions I was going to ask also. The enforcement process. And the other question is there a grandfather provision to be applied to this? If somebody's been running an Airbnb for the last 5 years and all of a sudden we find that they're doing it after the legislation is over, passed.
No, there's a state statute passed 2018 that made it retroactive to July 1 of 2014, that if you already had a statute in place, that statute could be amended and enforced. So the fact that somebody was operating an illegal Airbnb for the last 4 or 5 years in Mount Juliet, they are not grandfathered in since they're in violation of a statute that pre-existed July 1, 2014. The statute right here.
Okay. The tax on that, you said was
I
4%?
think it's 4% hotel motel tax. Does that sound right?
I'm thinking it's actually higher than that, but
It may be. I was just
I do know that,
quickly looking. To see
for
what
instance,
kind of dollars.
Gatlinburg is upwards of 12%. Of course, they have a state provision. Florida is 5 to 7%. And a lot of that's by volume. Because of the volume they're allowed, they can come down lower. So, I mean, what would be our potential for Airbnbs themselves only if we increase that tax for short-term rentals? Is that a possibility?
Meaning, can we increase the tax?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can. Okay.
Is that specifically for short-term rentals? I
For
know we-
hotel motel taxes.
Okay, so it's,
Well, no, I'm asking
No,
specifically.
No, you can't separate Airbnbs from hotel motels.
So you're telling me I can't discriminate?
Can't discriminate
Okay.
unreasonably.
Unreasonably? I don't think that's unreasonable. Okay.
I'm trying to get you two on the same page here.
Well, good luck with that. He's from Nashville.
We have plenty of them.
Any other questions on or comments on this? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries as well. Eleven 11.3, an ordinance to require that all land use amendments go before the Mount Juliet Regional Planning Commission prior to being presented to the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any questions or comments on this? Vice Mayor.
Okay. What I want to know is if this goes in front of the Regional Planning Commission prior to my information that I've gotten from Charles is that if it goes in front of the Regional Planning Commission rather than coming for the BOC and it gets turned down at the Planning Commission, that it's an absolute done and can only be brought back by a city commissioner. Is that correct?
Correct. So if I've got a proposal that goes for the planning commission for land use amendment, zoning, annexation, but say it's zoning and land use, and it goes for the PC says, we don't like it, then all that's necessary is someone on this group bring it up at the next BOC meeting, and it can be the exact same thing, and it gets considered by this body
Okay.
without any consideration what the PC did.
My understanding is what prompted this was the unconstitutionality of the original law that had been passed many years ago, in which we were exempted from. And we later found out that we were not exempted from because we were a home rule city. And the unconstitutionality was that an appointed board would have power and authority that an elected board did not have.
You've been reading.
You'd be surprised. Yes, sir. It's one of the things they
But
taught me
you're
in
right.
Wilson County Schools.
Yeah, Senator Pody sponsored this legislation, said the principal legislative body of the municipality should have the final okay on land use amendments, and that would be this group.
So
Go to the PC first, but the final decision is made by this group. As previously, it was made by the PC.
correct.
So that's changed.
So I'm confused as to why we would turn around then and give them authority to shoot something down when before it was actually, I was told by the Attorney General's office that it should be a recommendation only, a negative or positive recommendation because of their appointed status rather than elected status. So what I'm asking is, why are we sending it to them to vote yes or no and potentially put a blight on a good project when that should be our determination as the elected body?
I just wrote it. I didn't propose it.
Okay.
So somebody up here, I suggest, proposed it, but I would assume they want the input from the planning commission.
Well, input, yes, as a recommendation.
It's just whether you call it input or recommendation, it doesn't make a bit of difference. Their recommendation doesn't mean anything to the BOC. They can recommend yes, or they can recommend no. They can vote yes, or they can vote no. And we may just be dealing with words. Whether it's a recommendation or a vote up or down, it makes no difference.
Well, what I would like to
It has the
ask,
exact same impact on this board, zero.
well,
Legally.
yeah, but it doesn't come to us unless one of us brings it up. But what I'm saying is, regardless of whether one of us brings it up or not, even with a negative or positive recommendation, it needs to come to this board. That's what I want to see, rather than to come here. We can shoot it down later, but that needs to happen. But we need that opportunity, and we don't need it killed at the planning commission prior to coming here. So what I would ask is they give us a recommendation, yes or no recommendation, and then put it in front of us rather than it just being you're dead and go away until commissioner drags their body back up. So
It's no, never, no mind to me.
Question, city attorney, where was this found unconstitutional?
I think the Attorney General had an opinion. All I was going on is Senator Pody's
Well, I asked because I
statute.
couldn't find the opinion online, at least
And
by
I'm
the
not
attorney
familiar
general.
with the constitutional.
Yeah, I checked back to
aspect of it.
2019 and couldn't find an opinion. But speaking of it being unconstitutional for a non-elected body to have rulings on things, anybody recall how many votes the attorney general received? He's
Five
yes,
from the Supreme Court.
by the Supreme Court, so he's unelected.
6 down the governor.
And in theory, an unelected person told an elected body that they couldn't do what an elected body asked our unelected body to do. And if it's unconstitutional, why was Cannon County excluded from this act? And it would appear if the Constitution would only apply to 94 of the 95 counties. I watched the hearing, and I heard the legal department actually read the amendment there to exclude Cannon County with no voice, nothing being voiced in opposition to it.
Constitutionally, that works so long as the municipality or county impacted agrees with the actions taken. Y'all may follow the education savings accounts over the last year and a half, 2 years, where it only applied to 2 counties, Davidson and Shelby, but Davidson and Shelby did not agree that they wanted that. So they filed suit and went all the way up to our Supreme Court, and by trial court found it unconstitutional. Court of Appeals found it unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court by 3-2 found it was constitutional and didn't violate the home rule. So now it's back in, and as of Friday afternoon at 4:28, another injunction was denied in that case. So they're in effect now. So I'm not familiar with the statute saying that the old PC process was unconstitutional.
All right. Commissioner Hefner, were you asking to be recognized?
No, I guess I just had a couple of comments, and Gino clarified one of them, one of the questions I had. Whether it's unconstitutional or not, are we saying that this governing body can't make it an opinion or agree to, I guess, amend a ruling that the planning commission can either provide a positive or negative recommendation to this BOC?
Well, you can do that.
Okay. All right. And then ultimately it comes to the BOC for a reading and a hearing. And
this body has the final decision on any land use map.
I just want to sort out what's constitutional, what's not constitutional, what this governing body can decide on. And if we can decide on whether it's appropriate to have the planning commission give a positive or negative recommendation to the board, and ultimately the board, who is elected body, make a final opinion on it, that would be the direction I would like to see it go.
And the statute requires the planning commission to weigh in. The new
Correct.
statute requires that. It
Yeah.
just says the final decision rest with this group.
Well, what I didn't understand is why it had to be a yes or a no by the planning commission. If it's going to go to the,
It can be a yes or a no. It can be a recommendation or a non-recommendation, or a recommendation yes or a recommendation no. It just needs to go before the planning commission before the final vote by this group.
okay.
Vice Mayor?
My understanding was, regardless of the constitutionality, the fact that we were a home rule city actually deemed us exempt from what the original exemption of the original law that was passed by Senator Beavers, someone, and then Senator Beavers actually, if I'm not mistaken, exempted her counties. So, and the fact that we were found at that point to be exempt from that because we were a home rule city. So regardless of the constitutionality or unconstitutionality, it didn't apply to us and was being applied incorrectly. So I don't know if they mentioned that during your hearing or not, but that was something that specifically the Attorney General weighed in on. So, but what I would like to do, and I don't know where else it's actually mentioned in here, in the ordinance where it says, now therefore be ordained City of Mountain Juliet Board of Commissioners of the City of Mountain Juliet. All requests to amend the land use plan shall go before the City of Mountain Juliet Regional Planning Commission for a positive vote prior to being considered by the City of Mountain Juliet Board of Education, Board of Commissioners. What I would like to do, if we could, there for just for a recommendation prior. Sir, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Packet page 40. Just to change that, where it says for a positive vote prior to being considered, I'd like to say for a recommendation. Not a positive or a negative, just a recommendation. Would that be something, Mr. Marchetti, would that work?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, as far as the statute is what it requires.
I second that.
We have a motion and second to change positive vote to the word recommendation.
Does that, Mr. Marchetti, does that, I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to accomplish. Does that do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Understanding the recommendation could be negative or it could be positive.
But it's just a recommendation. It comes to us and we vote
Similar
on it.
to zoning.
Sir,
Similar to zoning.
correct. Yes, sir.
All right, we're on the amendment to change positive vote to recommendation. Is there any comments on this? I'm gonna not be in agreement with it, and specifically, I like having the positive vote coming from the Regional Planning Commission before being considered here. If it does fail the Regional Planning Commission as this is written, we'd still have the opportunity to bring it back, but this would make it automatically come to us with a recommendation. There's a lot of people that present ideas and projects to me and show me stuff, and I tell them before they go and spend a lot of money on engineering that, in my opinion, you're not going anywhere with this project. And some of them choose to do it anyway, and a lot of them fail when they get a land use amendment at the Planning Commission. You know, it's just my prediction that it would fail, but, you know, they're welcome to do it and free to do it. But sometimes I think that weeds out a lot of things. As it is now, we would have the opportunity to bring things back if something was voted down that we thought it was something we really wanted to see. We'd have the opportunity to bring it back. This would just, your amendment would make it automatic. As it is now, we would require action of the board to bring it back. So I think that's some good summary of the two differences on this.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
And I don't disagree with some of what you said. My problem with it is that regardless, and I too have had numerous people to come to me and say, well, I want to do this. And you're saying that's just not smart. The fact that they are going to make a bad decision, spend money in a frivolous manner, and come in here with a plan that is absolutely not going anywhere does not absolve us from the responsibility of making the decision as opposed to an appointed body. and which is what I've claimed all along. That is my only problem with this. I don't want an appointed group of people making a decision that is our actually responsibility to be able to make. That's where I have the issue with it. I don't disagree with you because like I said, I've gotten those phone calls. I want to make sure that we're doing this in a manner that is, as we stated before, that is constitutional.
Well, I would just say our inaction would equal our action in this case. So by inaction could mean that we don't spend a lot of time involving staff on bringing things back through and spending a lot of time. And it's the same thing if we have an ordinance up here. If somebody proposes something, we require a motion and a second to get it. So, if it doesn't have enough interest for at least one person to try to bring it back on the agenda, it's probably not going to go anywhere when it gets here. But everybody's welcome to their input.
Well,
any other questions or comments?
if I may,
Yes, sir.
They're welcome to their input until they get shot down by the planning commission, and then they feel like because of the process that they don't have any input. I've seen that happen actually numerous times. When the planning commission gives somebody a negative recommendation, they think their world just ended. When in actuality, coming before this board, there may be 5 of us or 4 of us or even 3 of us is all they need. But if we don't know that piece is there, we don't know this to be considered, then they don't have the opportunity. So, I mean, they deserve their time. I look at it as a judge would in a court of law. Everybody has an opportunity. I think we should automatically give them that opportunity in a constitutional setting and allow them to come up here and say their piece. Now, they may get shot down by all 5 of us, but they've at least had their opportunity, and we've not denied them anything based on what we feel like is a constitutional setting.
You say we feel like it's
We feel like it's a constitutional setting, correct? I don't think you believe that this is an unconstitutional setting, do you?
I do not think we're
I didn't think so.
operating unconstitutionally currently.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Are we ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
On the amendment to change positive vote to recommendation, all in favor of changing the language on number 1 under therefore be ordained, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. That carries by a vote of 3-2. All right, we're back on the ordinance as once amended. All in favor of the ordinance as once amended? Are any other comments on this after we pass this amendment? Commissioner Mullally.
Well, I was going to say, I have a problem with seeing this first before the planning commission because they've already gone through planning and, it made it to the planning commission. So with us not typically seeing plans, I would have a hard time voting on something without even knowing the details of a plan. So I disagree with it coming to us first. So I have a problem with that. So I like it going through the planning first.
Well, this would still require it to go to the planning commission first.
No, I know.
Okay.
So
It's okay.
yeah.
Vice Mayor?
I think you just answered what I was. This does not stop them. It doesn't come to us first now. It can go to the planning commission if this passes. And then once they've gone through the planning commission, got their positive, negative recommendation, then they can come into us with land use plan. And they can come in with if it's a planned unit development, a PUD, then they can bring that in and actually bring it all together. So it actually allows exactly what you're wanting to see. The other way did not necessarily.
That's all. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just a quick comment. As far as staff, the packet's already been done. I mean, the work's already been done. Is there any anticipated additional staff work or time that would, and I know I'm asking to speculate, Ms. Hamlin, because a lot of that has already been done for the planning commission. So
Right. Having them come to the planning commission first is a lot better for streamlining the process. So I whether it's a recommendation or a shot down or not at planning commission, just having them come to the planning commission first is better for us. the way that it got presented to us for these changes was that it was to go to the Board of Commissioners first, which just really messes up and convolutes the process. So as long as it goes to Planning Commission first, we're good.
Right. So my question was, if on a failure or a negative recommendation, it moves forward to the BOC, because normally it would die at the Planning Commission. If it moves forward now, if this passes, it moves to the BOC. Is there additional work on top of
We would
what?
just be creating a resolution or ordinance, whichever our attorney states that it would be approved as, and push it through.
Okay.
So we would create a ordinance for the PMDP, and so it would just be an additional.
So that would be the net new piece that would
We would
need
just
to be
making
added.
creating that resolution or ordinance, however it comes.
But as
through.
far as the packet and
Already
variance
uploaded.
requests, that information could carry forward to the BOC.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else? Commissioner Tourette.
Ms. Hamlin, sorry, thank you. I was trying to catch you before you got away. So just to make sure, because that was really quick and I was asking for time also.
Sure.
So that information, whether if it's negative or positive, will come back to us and we'll have those notes from the commission there to be able to hand it back to us, correct?
Just like you see our ordinances on a typical rezone or a PMDP, it'll have that vote of how the Planning Commission voted.
Sure.
So you'll see the record and if it's a positive or negative recommendation on that land use plan amendment.
Thank you.
You're
You
welcome.
just
Appreciate it.
get to prepare them on yeses and nos now.
Yes, correct. That's the difference.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments before we vote on the ordinances once amended? All right, all in favor of the ordinances once amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. The next item is an ordinance of the City of Mount Juliet to amend the Mount Juliet City Code, Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverage, Section 455, Permits, 3, Section 458, C, Same Fee, Annual Tax, Changes in Management, and Section 478-1, Valid Permit Limitations.
Second.
All right, it's on the table. Any questions or comments? Mr.
Sorry.
Hefner?
Clarification, Gino, we spoke about this earlier. State law requires for liquor on their annual renewal to update the manager information, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what we're asking for here is every time there's a management change to resubmit an application.
Correct.
Okay. To me, it sounds like it's a little overkill, but go ahead.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, I sponsored this because I said exactly what you just said. I thought it was ridiculous. If you have a restaurant and that restaurant has 5 management changes in the course of a year, a major chain or something like that, our law, and if I'm not mistaken, Gino, you correct me, Ms. Marchetti, it's state law actually, those will constitute new permits because of the management change. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what this does, this means that management change does not have to go in front of Brian's group, the Alcoholic Beverage Board, unless there's something found in the background check or something of that nature. And it requires that permit change, and we can't change that law, but we can change the procedure so that they're not called on to do something different. And it falls under the chain to be able to make those changes within management and then file the proper paperwork without there having to be a full-blown hearing. So that's the only difference is actually just a process difference. It's a house cleaning more than it is anything else. Believe me, I was as frustrated with it as you are because I was.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure we're even enforcing this ordinance today.
It has not been enforced if the people do not call and say, okay, hey, we had a management change. Okay. And when that happens, there's management changes, there's only a certain number of days. So what we did was, which I think, didn't we change it to 60 days? Has it always been 60 days? So, but the process in itself, having to go in front of the beer board or the Alcohol Beverage Commission board to get that approval for that management process, that's what has changed. It becomes an administrative process rather than an actual physical presence.
Would it make sense to sync it with the state liquor requirements and just do it annually versus it just, to me, it sounds like.
Well, you can't if they have, you can't do it annually if they have 3 management changes. The law requires to have 3 permits. That permit has to be changed so that that new manager is listed on there and his background is found to be acceptable to the city administration in our code to be the manager of a restaurant or a place that sells alcohol. And we can't get around that part. Believe me, I tried. That's what led to this.
Around it, I mean, you could have some businesses that this also includes gas stations and any of that stuff. So you get a management change every week. They're going to be resubmitting an application every week.
If you can get that really nice gentleman from Nashville, the attorney guy, to come up with a different solution, I'm giving him some mess.
Two things. Checking it's one thing, requiring it's another. So if someone wants, our statute says they're supposed to submit an application when managers change. So regardless of when you catch them, it's a violation if they don't. And they're supposed to do it within 60 days, submit the application within 60 days. So if it's yearly, we send out a form, tell us, list all the managers during the past year, and they have 12 managers and they haven't filed an application, then technically they've had 12
Violations.
different violations, which might result in them losing their beer permit.
Now, you use the word statute rather than ordinance.
Ordinance, statute.
Well,
I
I
count
mean, we have
the
ordinances,
same.
state has statutes, so that is a state statute, correct?
For applications for managers and managers change.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to make sure of that before.
Generally okay with it, but it's just going to be an administrative.
It's the only thing that's changing is lessening the administrative. It's actually creating an administrative process rather than a physical presence process. All they got to do now is submit paperwork. Before they had to literally show up in front of Brian then every time there was a change. Well, that would be about half the laws of the state of Tennessee.
Commissioner Mullally?
Okay, so you said the only thing that's changing is to require new management to reapply for permits. But from what Gino just said, did you say this was already in place? Or are you talking about the
Requiring them to submit applications for a management change.
If everything's okay. They don't have to go before the ABB. The change is if I'm a manager of a store and I quit and Kenny takes over and everything's okay on Kenny's application and background check, then we can process the new beer permit as him as the manager or change the status of the manager. And Kenny would get a copy of the beer laws. Any management, any change, anytime someone comes in with questions about beer, we give them a copy of the beer laws and make them sign for it. So we can never
Now
say
they have
don't
to
know.
come in, appear before the Alcoholic Beverage Board tomorrow night, for example, its meeting, and get approval, which is routinely given so long as there's no problems with the management. But now we're taking it in-house and administratively, they're going to say, okay, you changed your manager. Everything checks out. They're qualified. They know what
Okay,
to do.
so that's the difference. You don't have to go through the ABB.
Right.
I got a follow-up question based on that.
Commissioner Mullally, are you?
Well, I had something else, but yeah, ask your follow-up question because
Sorry. So if the manager quits or gets fired, there's been a change. Does the license continue? Or is it still active license if a manager quits or gets fired?
It's still an active license and they've got 60 days to submit that change. They're supposed to do it before the management change. But we give them 60 days grace period to make good before they're subject to being in violation and possible penalties. But the law requires them to submit it prior to the management change.
Okay. Well, it's hard to do if somebody quits.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if somebody just ups and quits, that's why we're doing the 60 days. So,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as feasible, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Commissioner Lally?
Okay, so really the only difference is, saying 12 times, whatever the reason, you have a new management at a certain place. They don't now have to go through the ABBs, whereas before they did each
If
time.
we knew about it.
Huh.
If we knew about it.
If-
Yes, they were
Supposed-
supposed to come before the ABB
Okay, but
with
now
a new
it's,
application, almost as if they're getting a new beer permit.
all right, so with this proposal, it can be done in-house without going that route? Is that basically it? All right,
In other words, Sheila or Christie or whoever happens to be handling it can make that determination based on a positive PBI background check.
okay. And the other thing is the open air. I'd like more details on that. So if a restaurant has a patio, would that be considered an open air venue?
Two-
And
Two quick things, and not to interrupt, but I had the same question. The open air only applies to entertainment venues. Currently, entertainment venues can only consume and serve beer in an enclosure. So you technically can't be out on a patio at Dave and Buster's drinking beer now. You have to drink inside. So this just says if you got a patio at Dave and Buster's or some boat dock, et cetera, and so forth, now you can serve beer and consume beer on the patio. You don't have to be in the enclosed space.
okay,
It's only entertainment places. It's not restaurants. It's not hotels, motels, et cetera.
all right. So for example, a marina. So if a band is playing outside, this is saying that you can serve beer, alcohol outside.
Beer is all we do.
Just beer.
outside.
Okay.
If I may answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
In actuality, this was created because I found out that Cedar Creek Marina had 5 management changes in their bar area. And there had been some confusion as to what their intentions were over the period of time. I called Sheila up and said, okay, they've had 5 different management changes. And she said, well, they should have made 5 different appearances before the Alcohol Beverage Board. As Commissioner Hefner said a while ago, it seems like really heavy overkill. And it seems like administratively, the process could have been streamlined some. I'm not sure where you're going with the marina analogy, but I will say that they've been serving beer at the marina for quite some time, actually about 35 years. And, you know, they've had a permit that allowed them to do that and do the food. So they have not come and got or applied for at this point any kind of an entertainment status, which is what that new permit exemption was allowed for, was the entertainment status. They haven't come and got that. They've been working under the old permit. Matter of fact, I don't think anybody actually has gotten the entertainment status yet. So the open air venue that we're talking about being a marina absolutely would apply, but it also applies to anywhere where there is going to be alcohol served on a patio or anything else. So it's all encompassing is what that open air part was supposed to be taken in. But I don't remember that being one of the changes.
Mhm.
Was it?
Mhm.
Okay.
All it applies to is entertainment venues.
Okay.
That's all that's changing.
You remember?
So
you
is
mentioned
amended
the-
to include open air venues.
Mhm.
Currently,
See section
entertainment
4-78.
venues can only consume and serve beer
One.
within an enclosure.
4-78.
4-78-1, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Does that make sense?
You
You
mentioned somebody was proposing, would be proposing an open air venue to be coming here.
Well, actually, what I was talking about was the Beckwith Road people were asking for an open air venue, and that would give them an opportunity to have that. I think they were talking about an amphitheater of some kind near the old Breeden's Orchard place is what I was referencing initially. But it does take into consideration anybody that's got an open air area. For instance, Miss Lillian had talked about doing something up there, open air. Amphitheaters would be open air. So anything like that would be considered an open air venue.
So since a band would be playing in such a situation outside, that would be considered entertainment, and we would allow them to sell beer there, basically, is the reason for putting this in there. Is that right?
I'm not sure your question.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why the nature of the open air venues are. So if that's the case, if it's only entertainment, if there is an open air place, if a band's going to play outside, this allows for, people to be served beer where that band is playing outside rather than inside, right? Is that what this is, opening up a new door for?
Yes, an
this-
entertainment
It's cleaning
venue is those that provide live music at least 2 nights per week and do not fall into any more specific land use definition. And restaurants in which beer sales are subsidiary to the primary business conducted on the site. So an entertainment area, best thing is Topgolf, for example, or Putt-Putt. They can serve beer outside now. You don't have to have an enclosure to serve and consume beer if you're an entertainment facility. If you're a restaurant and that's your main business, that 5-to-1 ratio of selling food, then you can have a patio and you can have people serving beer outside. They aren't getting their beer permit by virtue of being, quote, an entertainment. The entertainment, nobody applies for an entertainment. If you don't have the 5-to-1 ratio and you happen to get caught and you say, I'm an entertainment facility, so I don't need the same ratio, I'm excusing that because I'm an entertainment facility, then the ABB is going to look at what is going on to see whether or not it truly is a, quote, entertainment facility. Somebody strumming on a banjo for 30 minutes twice a week doesn't turn it into an entertainment venue, if that makes any sense.
All right. So if we have a future amphitheater here, and this allows for, if a band's playing and then allow to serve beer, who would serve that beer?
Same people who would serve the beer anyplace else.
Okay. So,
Employees who are instructed, who are subject to the same violation possibilities if they sell to an underage minor, et cetera.
well, I guess I'm trying to figure out if it's not attached to, say, a restaurant or something like that, where's the beer going to come from?
Yeah, Coca-Cola, whatever it may be, they're going to have some place there that's going to come from. They're going to have to hire people and train people accordingly, so, to handle that. But
Yeah, I'm just picturing.
yeah,
just an
I will
outside,
tell you,
like-
Mr. Marchetti brought up something that I think probably needs to be addressed at some point. Mr. Christensen, Brian, and I have had numerous conversations where we've talked about guidance that has not been given to the Alcohol Beverage Board. And I think this is actually a classic example. We don't have any procedures actually that are laid down as to give them guidance as to what would be a entertainment venue versus a restaurant. We just don't have that clarified. So I think that's probably something we need to come up with pretty quick. And I think also there needs to be a permit process given to somebody and approved maybe by the Alcohol Beverage Board prior to them going in that would establish them as an entertainment location, as opposed to waiting for them to apply for that status because they didn't meet some other criteria. So, I mean, that's something we probably need to address pretty quick. But But I mean, this right now with the putting the open air venues, I forgot that Sheila, you put that in there. So, but, did you? Okay. I didn't know about that one. Again, it's kind of looking at what might be, not anything that we've got currently. But the marina, Cedar Creek Marina, when they changed ownership recently, and then they were trying to get their management system established, is what prompted this, because they were in violation of the law. And Sheila says that most are. They just don't even realize it because they've never read the law. And it's kind of sad, but isn't that correct?
We do not have management patrol that goes around and knocks on everybody that has a beer permit to see who the manager is.
The recourse would be if they were found in violation and it wasn't up to date, it would be discovered
But
at
I'm
that
not
point.
sure what that recourse is.
And there's nothing in the ordinance that establishes what the alcohol beverage board's recourse would be.
They got a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. The death penalty, I guess, is even an option. So.
Okay. Well, I was just wanting to know details of why it was in there, so, and what it could mean.
Never know. All right, anyone else before we vote? All right, all in favor of 11-4, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. Next item on the agenda is resolution. Resolution of the City of Mount Juliet to allocate 1/2 of all civil penalties collected for violation of the City of Mount Juliet alcohol beverage laws to go to drug-free Wilco.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Commissioner Hefner?
Do we have how much do we collect this year or last year in civil fines and penalties? Do we have that number? Have a rough?
I think we just fined one establishment $1,500.
It was for the whole year.
I don't remember if that was. I think we had a couple of more back in earlier spring that were fined, and I'm guessing we've probably collected $2,500, maybe $3,000.
Okay.
Our fines have not been that.
Gotcha.
So if it's your first, second, third.
Okay. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I really do. And I know that you were on the charitable contributions for the city this year, because I was the commissioner that leaded that, although it was approved by this board. The request was, I believe, for $2,000, and we granted $2,000. My only hesitation is there's either now or in the future are going to be really good organizations that MAD is a good organization. There are other nonprofits that will be counterparts to what your organization is doing. And by going along with this, I think we're possibly setting a precedence where we're going to have to start doing this for every nonprofit. I'm in favor and will support your efforts through the grant program. You can request, I don't think there's a limit on how much money you can request as part of that grant application process. I continue, I would ask that you do that every year. 100% behind what you all are doing. Please don't take this the wrong way. But we do have other nonprofits that may also could benefit from this. We also have our own costs that the city has to incur that we have to consider as well. These fines and penalties are used to offset those internal costs. So I'm struggling with this. I'm not going to be a very popular person, I'm sure, when this vote is called. But I do feel we've done fair by approving the charitable contribution to the nonprofit, and I just don't see us tying city revenue specifically to one organization or part of it or partial of fines and penalties to a nonprofit organization. It just doesn't sit well with me. Although I commend you on what you're doing. and we'll continue to support you through your nonprofit applications to the city each and every year. So that was my only comment.
All right, any other questions or comments? Vice Mayor?
I've got a suggestion. Excuse me. Along with those guidelines that I keep talking about that have not been given to the Alcohol Beverage Board, what I would like to do, is this a resolution or?
It's a resolution.
Okay. What I would like to do is, well, Mayor, let me ask you a question, and you may not know the answer either, but do we have a line item for those fines specifically?
Yeah.
There is a line item for those. Okay. So if we've got okay, if we have an established line item, I think what we probably need to do is when we start putting that guidance in place for the Alcohol Beverage Board, what we should do is give them an opportunity to apply a certain percentage and give them also an amount over and above that we give them a cap on whatever the fines may be. So if it's 2,500, then we go to 3,000. If it's 3,000, we go to 3,500. And we allow them an amount over and above what our normal fines are. And that amount goes into a separate line item that would go to Wilco. That would give you all the same opportunity. But it would be set by ordinance as opposed to be setting by.
State, do you know, is there a state statute about how much? Yeah. I think 2,500 is the max.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know they don't routinely do a $2,500 fine. So, if they said, okay, we're going to do a $1,500 fine and $500 donation to a charitable nonprofit, they can do that, can they?
No.
They cannot do that?
No. All they can do is issue a fine.
They issue a
Fine
civil,
or suspend or
a civil
suspend it.
penalty or suspend.
Right.
That civil penalty would go into a line item, correct?
Yes, it goes into
It's
it.
a general fund.
Okay, so we could take that line item then and then declare that to go to the 501c3 at a later date when we've got an amount of money, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we accomplish the same thing. It'd be great if we had answers to the questions that allowed us to do the things we wanted rather than telling us no and making us figuring it out. I'm not going to be able to support this as it stands, but I am supportive of the drug-free Wilco, and I am supportive of being able to create an opportunity through the Alcohol Beverage Board to be able to get that money to go to drug-free Wilco. I just don't want to do it this way. I'm not comfortable with it at all. As Commissioner Hefner says, we're going to wind up double dipping here. I mean, they already got money from grants, and now we're going to give them additional money. And how many other nonprofits do we have that might apply to later on?
Yeah. I guess my thoughts on this was this organization specifically designed to help with education on this problem and to give us guidance on this. So it was looked at more of a partnership than just a grant here. But
I don't disagree, but I do see also opportunities where, for instance, CASA might come in and say, okay, anything that is any fines applied to youth through our city court, we want a portion of those going to our CASA program. I'm not saying that, I just use them as an example, but it is a potential.
is potential. All right. Any other questions or comments? We ready to vote? All in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
That carries by a vote of 3-2. Next item on the agenda is our Bpac appointments. I'll recognize Commissioner Mullally for her appointments.
Okay, we have 8 names that I have nominated for the new terms, which are all expired right now. And you had asked for, and I overlooked the part in the ordinance about the bios. So all the bios are attached. I hope you've had time to read them before tonight's meeting. And Commissioner Hefner had asked for each one, how long each one had been a member, and that's included in the bios as well. So I hope you got what you needed there. Okay. So I would like to confirm these appointments and get them voted on so we can move forward in our Bpac.
Can you list your appointments?
Yes. Art Giles, his term would expire 2025. These are staggered terms. He lives in District 1. Mike Earl, his term would expire 2023. Steve Armstrong would expire in 2025. All three live in District 1. District 2, Mark Thomas, his term would expire 2024. District 3, Alicia Ely, her term would expire 2025. District 4, Hunter Yoches, his term would expire in 2023. And we have two that live in the county, which is Matt Riccardi. His term would expire in 2025, and Diana Vergara, which would expire in 2024. So we have 9 voting members on BC, which I'm one.
All right, we have the 8 names submitted to us. Are we ready to vote? All right. Vice Mayor?
I had this conversation with 2 or 3 people. I'm still struggling with this. Not anything you've done or not done. Okay, it has nothing to do with you. As far as I'm concerned, you're on that, and you are the chairman, and so that goes without saying, without any issues at all. But I'm looking at this in District 1, we got 3. District 2, we got 1, 3, 1, and District 4, 1. That is not equal representation throughout. We have county members on here, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what county members would have that would contribute to the process. And I'm not saying they're bad people at all. I don't know them, never met them, so I wouldn't be able to say that. Then I've also got the expirations. What determines the expiration dates or the year of expiration on their terms?
I worked with Sheila on these because they are staggered.
Right, but what determined the year? For instance,
Appointment.
Mike or Brenda Earl expires in 2023. Is there a reason why they were picked to expire in 23 and not 24?
There's no particular reason. We just worked together and came up with the staggered thought and thought this worked.
Okay. I'm going to be bringing some changes regarding the Bpac committee because it is an ordinance as a proposal back to this board. If it passes, then anything that we do tonight is going to be a moot point. But one of the things and one of the changes that I would like to see made is that there would be 9 members. You would be the chairman of that committee, that board. And then you would have 2 in each district, 2 persons, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then 4 of those would be the mayor's selection. 4 of those, the other 4 would be picked by each individual district commissioner. So that recommendation or that representation in this case would be uniform across the board. Everybody would have, except for you would have 3 people in District 4 that would be voting. So makes it unequal, but you are the chairman. Also, there's some other issues that need to be considered, and I won't be bringing, I don't want to go through the whole thing right now, but I'm not sure how to handle this. If we vote on this and it goes through, then I bring these back, then it just undoes everything that we do tonight. Mayor, any suggestions?
I would say we just either vote this list up or down, and if there's some changes, and that passes, we can deal with that with new appointments.
Okay.
Because that would change the ordinance, but I don't see any harm in going ahead and passing this tonight, as opposed to deferring it, and then whatever's brought back may not change and may not change anything, and then we'd be back to the same list.
And it may very well be that the 2 that I pick in my district may be 2 that are already on there. I'm not saying they wouldn't be, but the district commissioner needs the opportunity to be able to pick one of those. I believe is representative of his district. The mayor should be able to pick his representatives as well, and that's just not the case based on the ordinances we've got it now. Not sure how that all worked out.
Commissioner Hefner?
Sorry, Vice Mayor, when's your timing on having that? When's your timing on having that language.
Bring that to the next commission meeting.
So if we deferred this by 2 meetings,
Be plenty of time to accomplish what I want to do.
okay.
Is that a motion to defer?
It's a motion to defer for 2 meetings.
Second.
We have a motion to defer the nomination 2 meetings in a second. Any questions or comments on the advisability of deferment? Commissioner Trevette.
So first of all, Jennifer, Ms. Mullally, thank you for obviously heading this this program up for everyone. What has been the participation that you've seen? Has there been an outpour for folks that have submitted their names for nominees, to sit in these roles?
No, to answer your question, and I would like to say that it really takes a special person because on the Bpac committee, you really need a passion. You need a passion for walking, cycling, promoting healthy lifestyles. So that's not everybody. So those type people are kind of limited, really. Even when I was looking for District 4 person, I kind of want to do it, but I don't really have time. Well, where's your passion? So then I found Hunter, who does have a passion. And so to answer your question, no. Now, these people who serve on Bpac, they have this passion and they've been committed. Some of them are new. They haven't been voting members, but they want to become voting members. But they've served on Bpac or been associated with it for a long, long time. So they have an investment here. And, again, over the course of years, Bpac has come up with $9 million in grant funding for sidewalks. So these people have worked together all these years for the most part. It's not like, okay, well, I want to name my own people in District 4, or District, 1 or whatever. It takes a special people who have this interest. So it's not like you're going to go out there and just pick a bunch of people to replace it. So I'm totally against deferral. I think we should vote these members in here. It's been deferred once already. Let's vote them in, get them in, so we can move on with Bpac. If you want to bring back something later, like the mayor said, bring it back later and we'll see what happens. But I'd like to move forward on this tonight.
So I still have another question, if it's okay. So obviously if we do defer this, is there any programs that you are looking at trying to, move forward with that's going to delay this?
Programs?
Or, is there any type of, activities that you guys are going to be doing in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks that could, delay any type of initiative that's being.
Well, our next event is in September. And so, we need to complete that. We were going to have that at Monday Park, but they got some construction going on. So we're going to have to find another park. So, let's vote this in and get it going. It needs to be a straight up vote tonight.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hefner.
Thanks, Mayor. So how many total members?
You can have there's no limit on members. So
there's unlimited membership on Bpac.
Yeah, but there's 9 voting members.
Correct. So some of these names, all of them, in fact, could be a member, just not a voting member.
Yeah, some like
Okay.
Mike, he's not currently a voting member.
They could all be members, just not voting members.
Sure.
Okay.
Alicia wasn't a voting member.
Correct. So we're not kicking them off of Bpac. That's not what we're suggesting by any means. We're saying maybe there's some voting members that I would like to have considered in my district that haven't served on Bpac. And as far as the $9 million grant money, that was done by city staff. So let's be clear about that. So it was taxpayers' money that wrote those grants. So I commend Bpac and everything that they do. and I'm behind them 1,000%, but there are 40,000 special residents in Mount Juliet. And I'm sure there's quite a few of those that would love to serve on this as voting members and as members as well. So I don't see what the sense of urgency is today to pass this. I'm not sure what's the motivation behind that. I don't think by deferring it by 2 meetings is going to cause problems or issues. So I'm all in favor of deferring it for 2 meetings. And I
Okay.
think that motion that's second.
We can't even approve minutes because we can't get this approved and establish our voting members. So if we don't have enough voting members from the previous one to be at the meeting to approve minutes, we can't even approve minutes. So this needs to happen. I need 9 voting members on this committee so we can move forward, approve our minutes, and do our thing. And, you know, this is a perfect example of politics here. Small town politics is all it is. You know, you voted vice mayor back in 2013, 2014. I assume you voted for the ordinance that exists today. If you didn't like it, I don't know why you voted for it. Of course, Commissioner Hefner wasn't here at the time. So I recommend that you bring your own ordinance amendment at a later time. But we need to get this voted on tonight so we can move forward as a committee.
Commissioner, I would add that grant season comes up this fall is another reason not to delay. But my original suggestion was we approve these, and if the rules change, the rules change. But there is a properly seconded motion on the table here. So, Vice Mayor.
By virtue of what you're saying, then if I voted on something in 2013 and then found out that it was probably not as efficient as it needed to be, for instance, the entertainment ordinance or the beer ordinance, I voted on both of those and have voted numerous times to amend those because we found areas where they were not as efficient as they needed to be to make this work better. Your logic and your line of thinking means that I should never change anything on anything I voted in a positive manner for in the past. That's faulty logic. I can't do that. Okay. When we find something that is not as efficient as it needs to be, then we need to change it and make it so. And as far as small town politics, I'm not sure where you get that from. I'm talking about doing something that really doesn't change a whole lot, except for making better representatives to the people who are in the city limits of Mount Juliet. Those are the people we represent. Now, 40,000 people is no longer a small town. Okay, but I've got 10,000 people in my district that I represent, and I think that they would be better represented by some changes that are being made in this. Now, yeah, Mayor, I don't have a problem with moving forward with this if we need to. I don't see the urgency, though. And I will tell you, it makes it a little difficult for me to just go along to get along when I've got somebody over here throwing small town politics in my face and using it like it's a slap upside the head.
Well, that can neither be proven, disproven, or whatever.
I think it was pretty much
and it can
just
be
said.
it can be said about anything we vote on up here. So we are a political body, so politics will creep in from time to time. So right now we're on the advisement of deferment, and let's stay on deferment. Anyone else before we vote on deferment? All right. We have a motion to defer this 2 meetings. I believe that's correct. All in favor of deferring 2 meetings, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
We are deferred for 2 meetings on the appointments. And with that concludes our agenda for the evening. If there's no objections, we will be adjourned. Hearing none, we are adjourned.
I covered.